at the Radio Live studios in Auckland to interview Andrew Patterson, a passionate supporter of our young people. Kia ora everyone, I would like to introduce Andrew Patterson to our show. Kia ora Andrew.
Hi Messi.
Andrew works in Radio Live, presenting his business show every Sunday. He also writes and is an MC who gets asked to speak to different groups of people who work in the business and education. If this wasn't enough, Andrew also gets to interview important business leaders. He also shares his knowledge and skills about developing a confidence to intermediate students in South Auckland, as well as being a mentor to a few of these young people. We think that Andrew is awesome.
Thanks Messi, that's pretty cool.
We are curious here at the Purple Cow Collective about what you were like as a young child. What kind of things did you love to do when you were younger?
Okay, so I was not a very confident child, I would have to say, when I was at school, and that surprises a lot of people because they think that when you work in media that you're just always confident. But I wasn't, and I had to work on that. I was always the kid at school that didn't want to be picked to stand up and do things. So I had to work on my confidence and I had to push myself a little bit when I went to high school. And I think that kind of worked. I got into drama and speaking, and all of a sudden I started to discover that I was able to do that fairly well, and that gave me the confidence to keep going. So I think I'm a very different person today than perhaps I was as a child, and sometimes, as I say, that surprises people.
Interesting. Who or what inspired you as a young person?
When I first went into a radio station, I was about 12 or 13. I remember that very, very well. And I remember thinking, this is something that I really want to do. You know, sometimes that happens when you're quite young. You actually literally fall into the thing that you want to do, and it just has an effect on you. And I remember coming out of the radio station thinking, that's what I want to do. There was just something magic about the experience, and there were a few broadcasters then. Kevin Black, who sadly died a few years ago, was somebody I remember I admired greatly because he was a really great radio person.
How did you end up working in radio?
Yes, well, when I went through school, I was interested, as I said, in radio. But what was interesting was that when I finished school, I decided I would go to university and do a business degree, and so I did that. And then when I finished the business degree, I wasn't so interested in radio anymore. And I went and got into business. I worked in business for a number of years, worked for banks, worked in a couple of tourism companies and so forth. And then in my late 20s, the whole radio thing came back again, and I thought, I really do want to get into radio. So I left my career then, working in banking, and I had to start kind of right at the bottom again.
How did you get more interested in radio again?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm not sure. I think it was because I started just thinking that the job that I was in, and I was working in business at the time, and I felt that there were parts of me that weren't really being used in that job. I think I had a more feel for working in a creative environment. That's where you can kind of do lots of different things, and I felt a little bit like a kind of a fish out of water really after a few years, and that's the great thing about careers, is you can change your career any way you want to do what you really want to do.
Okay. You seem very passionate about business. For a young person wanting to set up a business in the future, what do you think are the two most important skills that they will need to develop to be significant and make a difference?
Well, that's a great question, and that's something that I'm really interested in, actually, is getting more young people to think about getting into business. Because these days, it's never been easier to do that, particularly with technology. And we've got, the web, and you've got web design, and a lot of students now, of course, can even code, quite successfully. So I think technology is allowing young people to get into business a lot easier than might have been the case when I was a young person. It was quite hard to start a business at a young age, whereas, you know, many people, in fact, many of the people that I get to interview are very young and very successful at business. So in answer to your question, what are the two things I think that they need? I think they need to be very passionate about something. That is, to really want to do something, not just something you're kind of interested in, but something that you're really, really interested in. So I think passion is very important. I think the second thing is an interesting idea for young people to think about, this idea called networking, which is that you go out and you talk to adults who can help you achieve your vision. Because as a young person, you can only do so much, but there are lots of people around you who want to help young people. And I think being confident to go out and talk to adults and other people who can help you, then that's those two things. So I think passion and an ability to network a little bit with people who can make your idea happen, those are the two most important skills, I think, to make you successful.
People who are listening to this video, if you want to create a business, then listen to this guy. You are an ambassador for the Lion Foundation's Young Enterprise program, which teaches business skills to high school students. Can you share with us why you wanted to do this?
Yes, well, again, that was just because it's a fantastic program for doing that. And what the Young Enterprise program does is it allows year 12 and 13 students to be able to start their business. They actually start an actual business. It's not a pretend business. It's a real business. And I'm always amazed, actually, at the ideas that students come up with, from, you know, developing software to developing honey products. They seem to be able to cover the range. And every year when I think, you know, all the best ideas have been taken, the following year they come up with, you know, a whole range of new ideas, and they're just as good. So I think, yeah, it's just a way of being able to bring my skills to support them. Often I can bring contacts to them. I can support them in different ways. I can help them develop ideas. So there's lots of roles that people like me can play for a program like that. But many of those students actually go on to run their own businesses. In fact, sometimes they take the idea of the business that they've been running in the Young Enterprise program and actually turn that into their full-time job as well. So it's a great way for young people to get involved in business.
I like interviewing people because I can learn from them. You interview lots of people. Who has been your favourite so far?
Yeah, well, you're right, and I'm exactly the same. I get to interview people. I'm really lucky because I get paid to interview people who I find incredibly interesting anyway. So I think that's another idea, to do a job that you really enjoy doing, and you can learn from the same time. So you're right. I get to talk to amazing people who are doing, you know, incredible things around the world, you know, in this country. It's hard to think of you know, individuals, because I think every interview brings something to the pic. There's an interview coming up that I'm doing tomorrow, actually, with Walter Isaacson. Some people might not be familiar with Walter Isaacson, but he wrote the book on Steve Jobs when he died. You might remember that. It's one of the biggest selling books of all time. And he's just written a new book called The Innovators. So that's an interview that I'm really looking forward to talking to him. I get to interview John Key, the Prime Minister, quite a bit. You know, he's a very interesting person, of course, because he's always got lots of things to say about what the government's doing. I got to interview this morning a young guy in New Plymouth, Dan Radcliffe, who started a business called IVHQ. And what he does is he allows people to do volunteer programs around the world. He set that whole business up in New Plymouth here in Auckland, in New Zealand, and he's had more than 40,000 people in the world go through his program. I think that's amazing, and he's only just turned 30. He started the business when he was about 22 or 23 on his farm. So there we are. You know, he started a global business from his farm in Taranaki.
Confidence is a skill that I have slowly developed. I used to be really shy and I didn't even like to look at people or them look at me. You have made a program that teaches confidence skills to intermediate students. What would be your top 3 tips to help a young person develop their confidence in sharing an idea that they have that could make a difference in the lives of others.
Well, Messi, I've got to say to you, well done for doing this sort of activity, because what you're doing is you're working on your confidence by doing things like video interviews, and that's a really great idea. So that's a good example of what I say to the young people I work with is go and do something that is going to help you build your confidence. And we all know that you never change by just thinking change is going to happen. You have to do something about it, don't you? So one of the things that I find really interesting when I talk to many young people is that I ask them the question, are we born confident or do we become confident? And I'm often surprised at the number of young people who think that we're born confident, you know, so that they look at other people and say, well, I can't be like that because I wasn't born that way. But confidence is a learned skill. It's something we learn, and just because you're not confident doesn't mean to say that you can't change that. And you change that by doing things which are going to improve your confidence. So I do things to, like I say to students, just do something small every day that's going to develop your confidence. That might be just greeting the teacher in the morning, going up and saying hello to them and putting out your hand and kind of shaking their hand. It might be giving a compliment to another student about something that they've done. It might be taking a bit of risk, which means you might sign up for a speaking competition, which you've never done before, or joining a drama club, or just being what I call opportunity hungry, which is taking advantage. I say to students, say yes to everything, basically, because the more things you say yes to, the more it develops your confidence. Plus, you never know when that thing might lead you onto something that you really didn't know that you really liked. You know, you could be invited to take part in a golf competition, and you suddenly just, you know, work out that you're actually really good at golf. You didn't know that. So the more things that you do, the more it builds your confidence, and it also introduces you to other areas that you might never have known that you were good at before.
Good. Here at the Purple Cow Collective, we want to encourage young people to be remarkable. We want them to develop an unshakable belief in themselves and to know that they can make a positive difference in the lives of others. Is there any advice that you could give to the adults in our lives to support us?
Yes, I think just believing in yourself is really important. So, you know, fundamentally believing in yourself. And one of the things that I'm interested in is a concept called mindset. The power of the mind is so powerful, and we don't realize that often. Often young people don't realize this, that they think that, you know, they're born with a set of skills and that's the set of skills that they're going to have for life. But in fact, we know that the mind will allow us to pretty well do whatever it is we want to do. We just have to apply effort. So what I say to students is it's all about effort, not ability. Ability is simply something that you might be good at because you've become good at it over time, but effort is all about becoming good at something that you don't think you're good at. So if you don't think you're good at maths, for instance, a lot of students write themselves off and say, well, I'll never be good at maths. Believe in yourself, back yourself, and then just apply lots and lots of effort to get the outcome that you want, and it will happen.
My soccer coach says that if you hate like maths, then you'll basically never get good at it because you'll never actually put your whole mind onto it. But if you put in extra efforts, then you'll get good at it, and then so you'll want to do it more.
He's exactly right, and you're right that if you fundamentally say to yourself, I can never be good at this, then you close that option down.
I have really enjoyed interviewing you. Thank you, Andrew, for sharing your time with us. I can't wait to share your advice and tips with my community. I'll buy it. Oh, and you get one of these.
Oh yes,
own
of course, I get the owner's card. So it's a bit like Monopoly, isn't it?
Yeah. So your one's natural.